This is Technically Legal, a podcast about legal technology, innovation in the legal industry, and the impact tech is having on the law. On today's show, Chad is talking with Cecilia Ziniti about GC.AI, the startup Cecilia co-founded to assist in-house legal teams. Hey everyone, this is Vicky from Percipient. I'm stepping in to do a quick intro for this episode since Chad has lost his voice. On today's show, Chad sits down with Cecilia Ziniti, a former general counsel and current founder-CEO of GC.AI. She discusses her career path from the early days at Yahoo, her big move to law, then her switch to Amazon to help out with Alexa, later to Replit, all to end up in her current endeavor founding GC.AI, an AI-driven legal platform for in-house counsel. Cecilia explains why general LLMs like ChatGPT are insufficient for professional legal work, lacking proper citation, context, and security privilege protections. She highlights GC.AI's features, including enhanced document analysis, a word add-in, and workflow-based playbooks to deliver accurate legal analysis. This episode also touches on the current state of legal tech, the growing trend of bringing legal work in-house, and the potential for AI to shift the dynamics of the billable hour. Here's the episode. Hope you enjoy.
You've been in tech since before tech was even almost a thing, man. It's like early 2000s, right? Did I see this right? You started out as a paralegal at Yahoo? Did I get that right?
I did, and prior to that, I had been a chat moderator, early internet, back in 1999, so my tech cred is real.
Did you then go to law school after you were paralegal?
I did. So I applied to law school, because I was a paralegal at Yahoo. I loved it. Great tech issues, IP, copyright considerations, trust and safety, really just a vanguard legal team, and I realized I need to be a lawyer. And so I called to Berkeley Law, did the technology law program there, which was excellent, and still basically use the skills I had every day there around kind of IP, tech, and it was just a great kind of springboard for the rest of my career from there.
How big was the legal team at that point at Yahoo?
Yeah, I was probably 50 people, which is pretty big at the time. I mean, I think I joined and it was maybe 30 and it went to 50 in my time there.
When was Yahoo founded?
Oh gosh, probably like 1995.
Okay, so it'd been around a while, but it was still very nascent, right? I mean, the interwebs were just about to start to take off. I thought that was really cool that you'd started there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty newly public company, and Google filed for its IPO while I was there. Yeah, so Yahoo was founded in 94, and Google at the time, Google and Yahoo were competing in search.
Right.
And Yahoo made a bid to buy Google. They made a bid to buy Meta. So Yahoo had a number of acquisitions that didn't end up happening. But from a technology standpoint, around open source, around user communications, around really the concept of product counseling and how you have lawyers enable the business at scale at a technology company, Yahoo was one of the first. I mean, people like Ron Bell and Michael Callahan, both since general counsels. Michael Callahan eventually became the general counsel of LinkedIn. Now he's the general counsel of Rivian. And then obviously Belinda Johnson went on to be the GC, then COO of Airbnb. So it was an incredible first legal experience that I still draw on every day.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the law was uncharted at that time too.
Exactly. So I literally CDA Section 230, which of course now is a big deal around liability of online service providers, and that was before the social media era. Social media didn't exist. It was really a question of like, isn't a website like a GeoCities type website, is that a publication where they have liability of publishers for libel, and it was interesting to see that. I eventually did my case note at Berkeley about it. But even today, I mean, I think enabling the type of interaction that we see online today from a legal standpoint, the seas were sown then.
Yeah, that's cool. And so you go to law school. Now, do you stay at Yahoo or do you go to MoFo right away? How does that work?
I went to Morrison Foerster from law school. Yahoo had been a Morrison Foerster client, but I also just did kind of the OCI thing, but loved Morrison Foerster because of the representation of technology companies, and then just had a great experience. Ended up working for Michael Jacobs, who was the chair of their litigation practice and just kind of a legend in IP. And the big thing was just representing such a cross-section of technology companies. And so it was like working in tech, even though I was working at a law firm.
What was a day in the life like back then? Like, was it mostly IP focused you were doing, or was it across the board?
Yes. So I had this I really wanted to be close to the business, and so I loved litigation. I loved the kind of real lawyer, like, depots and court and all these things, but ultimately, the projects I gravitated to were a lot in tech transactions as well, and so really, like, nerding out about, like, what are the rights that people have? What does a license agreement look like? And these issues, of course, were an incredible, I think, way to come at AI because AI now is opening a lot of the intellectual property questions that the internet opened, right? Around ownership, around derivative works, around what rights, privacy, this kind of thing. And so the experience of being both a litigator on IP cases and counseling and seeing like the birth of software licensing, right? At that time, this is like maybe 2000, it was kind of pre-cloud, '06 kind of time frame. It was when I was in law school, it was, SaaS agreements at that time, subscription software was new. And so it's quaint to say it now, but seeing that across many clients and this kind of really tech at the time, I think the top companies in the Fortune 500, I think at the time tech were not the top companies, and now we've got, of course, Meta and Microsoft and Google and Nvidia and all these companies at the time were not that preeminent. So both from a legal and a business standpoint, it was a great time to start a career in tech law.
How many years were you at Morrison Forster?
I was there from 2007 as a summer through 2013.
Okay, so a while, and then I think I see this right. You go to Amazon, specifically, you're working on the Alexa.
Wow, it was incredible.
Was Amazon a client? Is that how you got there? Or?
I got recruited
Oh, nice.
because I had done a lot of matters for Apple on Apple Samsung, and at the time, I thought surely Amazon, the device business, they want me to work on the phone. They had been rumored to be coming out with a mobile phone, which was eventually the Fire Phone, and I show up at Amazon, like, my first day, all excited, and I get, like, one of the senior attorneys like, "So, the more senior attorneys are working on the phone, and it was really important to Jeff Bezos. We think you should work on this sort of, like, kinda crappy device, it doesn't really work." And that turned out to be Alexa, and it was called Doppler, it was a code name that's since been made public at the time, and it was the career move of a lifetime, and I always tell, my mentees and things like that, that you don't know in advance that, you could have this incredible project. Have faith, bet on yourself, do a good job, and, the possibilities from there, I really got into AI. And Jeff Bezos at the time, he's like, "Look, it's not just the first inning for AI, it's the first pitch. We're gonna have AI in every aspect of our lives, in, our professional lives, in our personal lives, recording every meeting, predicting, our business moves." And, that was more than 10 years ago. That was 2013. And that has absolutely come true. So the opportunity to work with that team at Amazon, an absolutely incredible team innovating in AI on this very clear vision around, in that case, Alexa. It was going to be this cloud assistant, and that's what it is, and it's become. And it really was the preview to modern large language models now.
So that's funny. So not that they weren't taking it seriously, but they really thought the phone was their focus, and then Alexa just kind of this side project they hoped was going to be cool.
Exactly. I mean, and it actually was interesting that the eventual failure of the phone, it did not do well because it was too late to the party from Samsung and Apple. But that failure informed some of the customer obsession, some of the ways that Alexa was actually launched. So when Alexa was launched, it was launched as invite only because it was like people didn't know what this device was. They didn't make that many of them. And so the demand ended up being incredible, this ability to sort of talk to AI in the cloud. But it was kind of like it was just super interesting to see how to launch a product at scale and, reach millions of users while getting this like brand new user experience around voice, right? So yeah, it was really a fun thing.
Yeah, that's cool. And so then after Amazon, you got a couple gigs still in tech. Walk me through those.
So after Amazon, I went to be the general counsel of a company called Anki, which was an Andreessen and Index backed robotics startup. So it's basically all the technology you would see in a self-driving car, except in a toy. And fascinating company, venture backed, and the founders were three Carnegie Mellon roboticists. And so I took a lot of the experience that I had around devices, intellectual property, consumers. They ended up selling millions of devices, tech a little bit before its time, and Ultimately, now the founders of that company became the San Francisco office of Waymo, and then now they've started another thing called Bedrock Robotics. But that was my first general counsel job, and I loved it. And being part of like in these new areas, GDPR came out at the time, being a part of that and seeing how legal could contribute to the business moving faster, reaching more people, really strategy. That was what that job taught me. That and the CEO, his name's Boris Softman. Loved working for him. Really learned how to be that CEO that sets an incredibly bold vision.
We need to do more with less. That is the key takeaway nowadays from almost every survey of in-house counsel. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if you actually could do more for less? By combining legal expertise and technology, Percipient enables legal teams to get more work done for less. Buried in contracts and sales is frustrated with turnaround time? We can help with that. Did you just get hit with a subpoena and reviewing 100,000 documents and files will tax your resources or cost you a small fortune in billable hours? We can help there too. Our team of legal professionals leverage tech and project management principles with the right amount of human oversight to deliver precise, efficient, and cost-effective legal solutions. Whether it's legal operations and contract management support, subpoena compliance, or document review, Percipient is your partner in really doing more for less. Percipient. Legal services powered by technology.
Ultimately, at some point, end up at Replit, right?
Exactly.
So this is my hunch. It's there at Replit. I think maybe I did see this on a podcast listening with you, where you start thinking about AI and starting your own company. Am I wrong here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what about that experience led you to become a founder?
So I became the general counsel of Replit. Replit was founded by Amjad Masad, and he is absolutely visionary about how the development of software will be. And he has had that vision for a long time and very painstakingly and excellently built all the pieces for it, right? So Replit, when you create software, it's not just the code, you have to deploy it and you need different packages, you need a whole bunch of things. And Replit has created the ability to do all that in the cloud. So the product itself was not something that was able to be done. Like it was a brand new thing. And post AI, having the ingredient, being able to make software very easily, plus the ability of AI to actually write the software. Basically, Replit went from, you know, single digit million revenue to 150 million revenue in less than 6 months because it was such like it really just hit. So seeing Amjad set that up was incredibly inspiring. Also, quirk of history, at the time, Replit had a deal with OpenAI before ChatGPT. So importantly for my journey, I had access to LLMs, to large language models, before kind of the world saw it in November of 2022. So I saw it early 22, late 2021, was using basically AI within Replit and seeing that it could draft, it could do all these things. And I had this like, back to that early internet experience, I had the chills just like the first time I used Google. I asked it a legal question. It was like, oh my God, it's drafting. And I became pretty obsessed. I taught classes for lawyers on ChatGPT. I started an AI and legal newsletter. I went to meetups and things. And eventually it was such a fever pitch that I spoke with Amjad and was like, hey, I need to leave to go do this. So my last day at Replit was November 1st of 2023 and incorporated the company with my co-founder on November 8th.
Oh, nice. At Replit, you said you had access to LLMs. The internal to Replit, or did you have early access to OpenAI or some other ones, or how did you have the
I
access?
think it was ChatGPT. It would have been GPT 2.5 at the time, possibly 3.0, but it was access to the API versions, the developer versions of those tools. But we had a client within Replit, and you couldn't do, I couldn't do legal work the way I do now on GCAI or even within ChatGPT, but the basic interaction of the machine talking to you, generating, that magic moment of early ChatGPT. And then of course, once ChatGPT came out, using it for personal things, using it for basic business communications and realizing, hey, this is not good enough for legal. That was really the deep inspiration for building GCAI.
In your mind, what's the first iteration GCAI before there's any code written? Like, what's your vision? Because it always ends up changing. Like, back there to Replit days when you decided to do this, what did you think you were building?
I always knew that I would be building AI for in-house counsel, and I knew it would be within AI. The exact form factor, my co-founder and I spent a lot of time talking about it, but it was more from the perspective of taking that Amazon experience of that customer obsession and working backwards of like, okay, you can use ChatGPT for legal work. It's a great tool. Lots of lawyers use it, but it's just not really good enough. It has these kind of fatal flaws that make it, if you want to really actually do legal work, it's not adequate. So that became our MVP, was that feature set of things that ChatGPT can't do. And you're saying it again and again, right? So ChatGPT does not cite its sources. They've added some citations, but this certainly doesn't make it easy, right? So if you upload a contract to ChatGPT, how does this contract terminate? ChatGPT might say, okay, it terminates for breach. That's not good enough for a lawyer. A lawyer needs to know it terminates for material breach on 60 days notice with a cure period per section 8.2. And by the way, here's section 8.2. Let me show you. So that difference between the former experience of like ChatGPT just says something and GCAI, where we give you the actual accurate document manipulation. We've done a whole bunch of stuff with RAG, that's the technical term for it, but essentially around chunking the document. We've done a bunch of things in the user experience to show you the document. That difference between those two experiences, that alone was enough for an MVP. That plus honestly the tone and the outputs, right? So we invest very heavily in our system prompt. We use 5 different models, by the way. Models are good at different things. And so any one time we might be using GPT 4.0 or we might be using Claude Sonnet or some other model, but essentially the IP is around and the experience that customers get is like, we're going to make this AI excellent for legal analysis, excellent in its output, client forward, client facing, hyper clear, all the things that as an in-house lawyer I needed. And so the revelation that I had was not only that we could be purpose built for the job, but that this particular job of being an in-house lawyer is unique. We have specific things that we need and want out of our work, and serving that, I knew we could build an incredibly delightful experience for many, many thousands, if not millions, of people around interacting with the law in a business context. So that was the vision, and that's what we've done.
You met your co-founder. It's a technical co-founder, correct?
That's right. Yes, he has been coding and working with AI and LLMs since GPT-2, quite early. So he had been at a company called Rome Research, which is a networked note-taking app around the manipulation of knowledge, and was an early client also of OpenAI.
How did you guys connect?
We worked together at Replit.
Oh, okay,
So
okay, okay.
definitely kind of the universe somehow, but it's an incredible match. He had actually applied to law school and declined the acceptance because this was 6 years ago. He knew that AI would be coming for the legal field, and he could make more impact learning to code.
Was this pre-Replit or like right around the GCA time?
Pre-Replit, pre-GCAI, and literally taught himself the Clojure programming language, which is like the most simple and the clearest. And that ended up, leading to the path that eventually brought it to Replit, and we worked together there. And I very early on was like, this guy is really good at AI and has incredible product sense. And pairing that with kind of my strong vision around what the product should be. And the fact that I really was, I was an in-house lawyer for almost 20 years since Yahoo. So having that experience of like, it's also true that people building for in-house legal, you've talked a lot about legal tech on the pod, but there hasn't been outside of CLMs, like the, Lexis, Nexus, and Westlaw have generally also been more focused on law firms. And so from a corporate standpoint, great software like a Salesforce or something for sales, I don't believe that has existed prior to GCAI.
That always raises a good point because I agree. To date, most legal tech is focused on selling to law firms. But do you think that's because partly, this is just something I've been thinking about for quite a while now, because if you're in-house, you're already using the tools sales is using, the business people are using. Is it because you kind of already using tools? Do you think that's not why it's been appealing, or is it just something that was overlooked?
The trend that I see is companies bringing more work in-house. And the reason for that is just being closer to the business. closer to where the actual legal advice is needed. There's also a rise of this kind of product counseling, right? So as you see disruptors, particularly in Silicon Valley, but also generally, taking on regulated industries. So Uber, for example, or even One Medical. These are industries where if you want to try to do something a little bit different, in Uber's case, not have taxi medallions, you're going to need lawyers. And you're going to need good ones because it's very possible that what you're doing doesn't match, right? And so the creativity and the thought and the partnership around launching new products like Alexa, it is a better model to have people employed by the company sitting with the product people. So I do a pod as well. I was talking with various in-house lawyers, and we all agreed that like the pinnacle of when you made it is when you're just part of the product team or part of the international expansion team or whoever it is that you're supporting. Where I told a story of I got invited to one of these, like the fake skydiving where it's like a fan. So we went and did that with the product team, and they're just like, "Oh, we want to have our lawyer there," and get in
Oh,
the
that's
comment of
cool.
like,
Yeah.
"You're one of us, right? You're really helping us get the sort of thing I mentor is like we, not they." So in that environment, like, I think the software that can help, it's more of like, let's get the job done. Like, yes, you are a business person with a legal skill set, as opposed to at law firms. No shade on law firm lawyers. I love them. Lots and lots of friends. I've had incredible outside folks represent me in very high stakes matters. But the unit of what you're selling is a widget of legal analysis, right? And so the way that AI interacts with that, the incentives are just different. Right. And so I think it's great. Like you have seen, big players tackle that, but I think it is going to be a reckoning for the profession around the billable hour. People have been talking about the end of the billable hour since I've been practicing. Never happened.
Yeah.
You've probably seen it too, but
Yeah, I'm always gonna be skeptical.
AI might be the real shot. I do. I do think that,
I
Chad.
believe it when I see it. I believe it when I agree. I agree. And theoretically, that's the straw's gonna break the camel's back, but I'm just not sure about that.
I tend to agree with you because I do think the highest end matters will go that way. The other trend I'm seeing that's interesting is folks saying that they're going to see more. We're going to see a lot more demand for legal services as even consumers. Like, that people are writing demand letters generated by ChatGPT, and companies are, have to deal with that. And similarly, litigation, adversarial system, everybody's going to be juiced up with AI. So it's going to be a different ballgame.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that the consumer part me too, because I think that's a real opportunity for companies out there because a lot of warriors don't want to do the consumer work because it's not as lucrative in their mind, but you've got this AI that can do it for you and really protect a lot of people, right? I think that's a very interesting point, but I digress. Back to GCAI. We kind of got into it a little bit, but you're at a barbecue, you run into somebody, and you say, "Hey, I'm the founder and CEO of GCAI," and they say, "Hey, what is that?" What do you tell them?
So GCAI is legal AI for companies, and our first customers are in-house counsel. And that's born in my own experience. I was a general counsel for 10 years, a lawyer for almost 20. And GCAI is basically end to end the ability to have AI help with your work, right? So we've got workflows, we've got a ChatGPT like chat interface, we've got GCAI for Word, where literally you can bring the same AI brain that we spent, so long and such effort on the web, and you can bring it to Word. So within Word, I still get the chills when I see this. It knows who made a comment, who made a red line. It can make red lines for you. It can make comments for you. And it's when people talk about things that are agentic, basically what we're building is agents to be directed by the lawyer. So the metaphor I always use, it's like having a smart associate work for you. You still have to kind of review the work and tell them what to do. But once you do, you've got this basically legal AI, this analytical power that you can point at whatever it is that you need to point it at to get your job done. So we have more than 800 customers now, everything from kind of retailers like Williams Sonoma to, tech companies like Vercel or others. And it's been just an incredible journey. But what people really like about us is that we're for in-house counsel, and everything in the product, everything we do, our classes to teach prompting, they all really reflect that very strong point of view of who we are.
You said 800 customers. Congrats, good work. How you getting the word out? Is it you just pounding the pavement? You got a sales team? What's the marketing like?
The craving that people have in legal teams as lawyers and others in legal around learning how to use AI well has been this incredible accelerant where my mom was a teacher, my grandma and great grandma were teachers. They're a quirk of history. But through teaching and just like spreading my enthusiasm for AI, and at this point now, people love the product. So we get a ton of word of mouth. So we've not really done any paid marketing because it's really, I guess, the Silicon Valley way to say it is product led growth because the product and what we're offering is so good for the job that we don't have to advertise that much. We should, and I do podcasts and things, and I have a strong network that because I just love hanging out with lawyers. I love making people happy. So I guess I don't know if that's like a leadership thing, but if you focus on that, your business will do well.
So you already alluded to it that, yeah, you can use ChatGPT, Gemini, the ones for legal work, but what have you done under the hood to make GCAI better for lawyers, better for in-house lawyers specifically?
So, at a technical level, the system prompt, I would say, is the core IP around how do you chunk a document? How do you respond? What is the AI told? We've also created software around ensuring that your communications are privileged, right? So, Sam Altman has gone out and said ChatGPT is not privileged, it's general, et cetera. But for us, like we've isolated your data, we've gotten SOC 2 compliance, we've done a whole bunch of things on the security side. So I would say it's kind of three things. It's the system prompt to where the outputs really are better. It's honing the reasoning, honing how it looks across documents, honing the context window, that kind of thing. The second set of course, the security, privacy, kind of ethical related features. There is a Google Docs like sharing. So we've got the ability to upload a knowledge base and kind of share select documents. And then the third thing is really around the workflows, right? So we have a team on my team called Solutions, and we come up with basically prompts being the sort of main unit that you do. So things like reviewing an MSA, which is a very common task for our software clients or even for our non-software customers who buy software, right? We have it where you can do a checklist or you can run a playbook in the Word add-in. And so just thinking about like what is not only the legal task to be done, but everything around it, right? So I teach these classes where I'm like, okay, you're reviewing an agreement, and then presumably you're going to send it over to somebody. What is that next step? Or hey, you come up with this compliance plan for the new New Zealand privacy amendment, which just came out this week. Okay, you came up with a compliance plan. Now you got to implement it. Let's work on your email to the business. And so just thinking about the whole chain of what people do, there's a lot of features there. And our roadmap is all around basically extending that. So seeing what is the pull, what are people wanting to do with platform. We also built a research agent. So we had a user tell us that she's never paying for a 50-state survey again because the AI, GCAI did it for her. But basically, we're doing a perplexity like web search where we added kind of a legal filtering and kind of legal analysis on top of that, where it could know the quality of a source and not cite it. So it doesn't cite kind of SEO garbage, but rather it will prioritize government websites, prioritize, big law analyses and other things like that. And so that's been the other kind of feature set around research that our users have very much enjoyed.
You just mentioned roadmap. What is on the roadmap near term? What's the next feature you're rolling out? What are you trying to do? 6 months, 12 months, 3 years?
Yeah. So we are absolutely maniacal about product quality. And we have a Playbooks feature within the commercial contract module in Word. And it looks great. It'll run checks against your contracts, tell you if it passed, met your fallbacks, what have you. But we have not released out a beta yet. It is still technically beta, invite only. Again, inspired by Amazon, but still technically invite only. So we're going to launch that GA. Other big features is going to be on the research side, the ability to trigger legal research kind of in the background. So today, people use GCAI, tell me the new privacy laws that affect me, for example. But what if the AI did that proactively, where the New Zealand Privacy Act comes out and it lets you know?
A save Google search, like the Google alert.
Similar to Google or exactly, but with the legal analysis, what you got to do. Because Google can tell you, is there a new law that's fine, or if there's a new mention of your company. But the ability to kind of supercharge that the same way that the core legal research is supercharged with AI. Because of course, can you Google the New Zealand Privacy Amendment? You can. But if you actually want to create, advice from it, or you want to review your current, DPIA process against it, that's what AI gives you is like that next level. And so doing that on a programmatic basis. And then we're actually redoing our whole chat framework to basically give users more of what they want, where we're able to ingest a lot more context, able to do a lot more things than ChatGPT or the other models, and basically just rising the limits on that. Really, the platform play.
What do you mean by that? You mean like grabbing documents outside of like, like your file storage or whatever? Is that where you're going outside of it?
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So right now, what happens is if you're not using a purpose built tool, it gets a little dopey, and it actually forgets what you're asking, and so that's kind of fatal. Like, forgetting what people are asking is like it's like having a dumb intern. You can't have that. So, basically, the ability to give lawyers control around what they ask about, around what's included, and really be more similar to like a developer, right? So, software developers at Replit or software developers using Replit, they can choose what files they're asking about, what to manipulate, very similar to managing a human. So bringing that to legal and just extending the core platform capabilities, that's a big initiative on our roadmap as well.
Well, cool. This is great stuff. If people want to get a hold of you, want to learn more about GCAI, find your podcast, where do you want to send them?
GCD.ai is our main website. I did buy that domain, very proud of that. But you can also find me on LinkedIn, just Cecilia Ziniti. It's spelled like Cecilia. Or if you just search GC.ai, you should be able to follow us. We have a Slack channel, GC.ai/classes to take our classes. I would say that's the best way to kind of get a foray in. And our podcast is GC.ai/podcast. So I'd love to have you, Chad. This has been really fun.
Anytime, yeah. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, Cecilia. Best of luck. Let's get 1,600 next time we talk.
Let's go. I'm going to go for 10,000.
I like it. Okay, that's a wrap for today's episode. As always, we really appreciate you listening. If you want to subscribe, you can find us on most major podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, etc. Also, if you like us enough, I hope you leave us a favorable review. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, this has been Technically Legal.